Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we replace the companions with historical figures. Guess this week we watched Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
Written by Nina, Métivier. It's probably...
Métivier?
Yeah, something like that.
Who knows? Well, she does. Probably should have asked her. Directed by Nina Métivier.
And aired on January 19th, 2020.
Nice. Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror.
Yeah, so this episode kind of mirrors Rosa from the last season. It's the third story of the season, and it's historical.
Yeah, it's about a persecuted figure in history standing up for what's right.
Well, yeah, that's true, but like when you compare that against Rosa Parks, it seems less true somehow. You know, or like less, probably the persecution was less extreme.
It was. I was kind of making a joke.
Well, I mean, it's like what you're saying is, as far as I know, true.
Yeah. This episode, though, way plays down, like, one, how much of a social introvert and kind of a dick Tesla was, and two, plays down a lot, like, how much of an asshole Edison was.
Yeah, I mean, I get from like a writing standpoint, you want to have one of them like be the good guy and one be the bad guy, especially with that reconciliation at the end. But yeah, really plays down, especially on the Tesla side, I think, how much...
Oh, I think it's more on the Edison side, because I guess I'm going to throw this context out there because the episode totally glosses over this, but in this episode, you see that Edison is like talking about, you know, how bad Tesla's... ideas are and alternating current, basically. But this episode fails to mention that that actually, one, everything we use now is based on alternating current, so who wins in the end? It was Tesla. But two, that Edison was so threatened by Tesla that Edison was the one who actually started all these rumors by designing the electric chair and using alternating current to power it, and then killing animals on live display and being like, see, this is Tesla's doing. And it's like, this is an actual thing that Edison did. He killed animals.
Welcome to the Gilded Age.
It's like that meme where the guy like shoots the other guy in the chair and he's like, why would someone else do this? It's like alternating current sitting in the chair, and Edison just shoots it, and he's like, why would Tesla do this?
I don't even know that meme, but...
I'm going to go make this meme, and I'll stick it in the show notes.
Wow.
And you can tweet it out, it'd be great.
I'm not going to tweet that. Yeah, I mean... Definitely, the reason I said I feel like it plays it down more on the Tesla side is because like Edison is still somewhat of a dick in the episode. Not somewhat, he is actually like a dick.
It's true.
Tesla's like totally not, but like from what I've read about Tesla, he like kind of was historically.
The episode also fails to mention that the reason why Tesla is poor is because Edison sued the pants off of him. I mean, they make it out in this episode like Tesla's poor by choice, but in reality it was Edison who sued the pants off of him. So, again...
Well, that's just how the cookie crumbles.
I guess Edison was the better businessman in the end. This episode also, like, doesn't introduce Westinghouse, who was, like, the business side of alternating current in the end.
Yeah, you don't want to bog down the story too much, especially when you have to introduce the Skithra into the mix.
Yeah. Weirdly
Controversial and odd inclusion for a villain, but... We'll get there.
Yeah, weirdly enough, there was a movie about Edison and Tesla called The Current War, which I only remember as being notable for the fact that it was allegedly supposed to come out like in 2018, and it came out and was critically panned, and everyone forgot it existed for a whole year when they released the director's cut to theaters, and it was better received, but also made no money and was again forgotten by the entirety of the public. Which is weird because it has Benedict Cumberbatch as Edison, I think.
Huh. Maybe if it had a better title, like, you know, you think current war and you're like, all right, what you know, is this a, you know, modern 21st century, you know, war? What war is this? But it turns out that it's about like electricity.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure And by they, I mean historians refer to the like battle, I guess, between Edison and Tesla as the current war. So you just got to get the inflection right. It's not the current war; it's the current war.
Yeah, currents like the raisin things.
The current war. Anyway, this episode starts with Nikola Tesla inventing electricity. He's standing at Niagara Falls, and he's like, all right, investors, guess what? I built the generators that are powering this bad boy. Not powering the falls, but are powering the building.
Who wants to give me all their money?
And he's basically like, look at this. I can transmit electricity through the air. Give me money. And they're like, yeah, but you talked to Mars, so no. And his assistant, what was her name now?
I don't remember.
Like Duncliffe?
Was she like a real, historical person? I obviously didn't do the homework.
Dorothy Skerritt. Okay, I had never heard of Dorothy Skerritt before, and I didn't do my homework either. So, Dorothy Skerritt was indeed one of Tesla's secretaries. However, in the real world, they didn't meet till 1912, potentially several years after the episode's setting. Well, it is several years after the episode's setting because Wardenclyffe gets torn down in 1906. So
yeah, I think they actually say in the episode that this is in 1900 exactly. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just know it has to be pre-1906 because Wardenclyffe gets torn down or sold.
They're obviously playing with the timeline, like, to some extent, which is weird considering how much of an effort Rosa made to not do that. Or kind of. I mean,
Demons of the Punjab, too. They were, like, very, very particular about what day it happened on and how the events transpired and everything.
Yeah, which is why it's a little weird that this one is so liberal about it.
Playing a little loosey-goosey. But Tesla's upset, but someone dies basically working on the generator, and Tesla's like, that's kind of weird. And so he stays like overnight to figure out why.
And is also going to defame me even further.
Gotta cover this up.
Yeah. What if the whole episode was him like trying to cover up the death and
just throws the body off the falls?
God. No, but there's some weird occurrences going on, in the facility. This wasn't his lab, right? This wasn't the lab that we see later.
No.
This was just like some
This is just
facility.
the electrical generators at Niagara Falls.
Anyway, there's some, weird occurrences going on. There's a floating super ball, which, bounce one of those things and it'll stay in the air, indefinitely. So,
yeah, that's how that works.
No, it'll actually just bounce off the walls indefinitely.
Forever. Yeah. My notes actually say this is a space soccer ball, but I like that one better. Tesla steals it.
Yeah. He has no idea what it is, but he's like, oh, this looks interesting. Takes it, and that turns out to be his undoing.
Yeah. There's also a part missing from his generator, which is why it killed the dude. Because the part was stolen, which made the generator unsafe.
Right, and meanwhile, there are a couple suspicious people wandering around the area, and it turns out that one of them is the doctor.
As usual. Like, is anyone really surprised by this? There's a guy who comes down shooting, and Tesla and Dorothy. So Tesla and Dorothy kind of hide behind this box to get away from the guy shooting, and it turns out the guy shooting at them was one of their investors. And then he gets killed by some sort of green bolt of energy.
Yeah, it was Brady. Poor Brady.
I remember Brady's name and not Dorothy Skerritt.
Because I wrote it down. Because when they see him, they're like, no, not Brady.
But then there's a door flings open and the doctor comes through and she's like, well, what's going on here? And then she gets shot at and she's like, what the hell is going on?
So they all run away. And they wind up on like this train car.
And we meet Graham, Yaz, and Ryan.
Decked out in some 1800s regalia, some 1800s attire.
Well, late 19th century, shall we say.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of chilling like a villain, like they do for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really think of this until now, but like, what were they there to do in the first place, you know?
They were tracking the energy fluctuations, typical Doctor Who entrance, energy fluctuations.
Well, that's a classic show thing, actually. Well, I don't know.
It's just a Doctor Who thing, I think.
Yeah, sure.
You know, while I was watching this, I was like, I'm kind of nostalgic for the Russell T era now, where things were simpler and
things were simpler than they turned out to be in The Timeless Children.
I mean, you're not wrong.
That's aired by now, and let me just say, first of all, I tried to avoid spoilers and failed.
I tried to avoid spoilers and succeeded for a while.
But second of all, the revelations and twists in The Timeless Children put our, like, joking, just off-the-cuff predictions to shame.
I don't know how that's possible because we make some pretty whack assumptions. The one thing I heard was that it makes literally everything canon, so I just like to assume that we're canon now. The Trust Your Doctor is part of the Doctor Who canon.
All Doctor Who podcasts are now canon in the universe of Doctor Who. That's what they reveal. They say that exact line verbatim. No.
If Chibnall did that, I'd be like, Chibnall, you madman. That's what if we run the show, I'm going to slip that line in somewhere.
Imagine if they, like, an actual, like, canon official Doctor Who episode just, like, name dropped, like, say, Radio Free Skaro or something. Like, imagine if just, for example, Series 13, the Doctor meets up with their companions after, some time away or whatever. And she's like, so what have you been doing? Yeah, it's just like, just catching up on Radio Free Skaro. And they, like, just don't make a big deal about it. It's just something that's there.
Bravo, Chibnall, you madman.
Anyway, the Doctor is picking up the energy readings from Tesla, and she's like, you're hiding something. Like, don't even try and hide it. We know.
She's like, no, I'm going to keep it. They also encounter the alien again and steal his gun, and the Doctor's like, this is a Silurian gun, but that wasn't a Silurian. So that's kind of weird.
Right. Flash forward to the next day.
When they arrive in New York.
There's some protesters outside of Tesla's lab or just workshop, which I assume he's also using as his, like, house or something.
Probably.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's some protesters here, and some of their signs say, like, AC death current, and that's referring to, like I said, Edison just killing animals.
Yeah, they're really protesting against AC. People in the early 20th century really didn't enjoy air conditioning or
I think Tesla gets vindicated later on because I think it's been shown that AC is actually safer than DC because the, like, voltages and amperage you would need to make DC transmittable over the long distances that we transmit power over nowadays, it would just, like, basically instantly kill you, like, if you even got close to the power line.
Nah, I don't know.
We use AC for everything in physics now. And everything we use in our daily lives is AC.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you get the AC adapter, right? Is like, that's what a charger is. And I'll just, I want to say at this point, one thing I really liked from this episode starts here and continues for the whole thing, I think, which is sort of the Twilight aesthetic, the, like, sepia tones type thing. Really puts you back in.
What did you say? The Twilight aesthetic. First I thought you meant, like, Twilight Zone. Okay. Then I thought you meant, like, Twilight Evening Twilight. And then I thought you meant Twilight, like the vampire movie Twilight. So I'm really confused.
No, I mean, like, Twilight, like, evening, like, I mean, because this is, like, morning/day, but it sort of has that, like, Well, that's what twilight means. Like when you go into the etymology, like two like kinds of light, like darkness and light. I don't know.
Dark light and light.
Light, yeah, exactly. But I just, yeah, I guess sort of sepia tone describes it better, and I liked that. Made everything look old.
Great.
This is something that I actually found out when I was doing research for our Cars episode of Triple Play, a movie trilogy podcast. Check that out. Is that
episode won't go out for like 8 months?
Yeah. No, well, yeah, no. Yeah, actually, yeah. Depending, but okay, so a lot of movies. I don't think all movies do this, but a lot do apparently. Have like a color palette, so they like decide this right away when they're creating the movie. Of like they just come up with, I don't know, a dozen colors. They're like, all right, these are the colors that our movie is going to use for its palette and its look. And you got to wonder whether like individual Doctor Who episodes do that or not.
Yeah,
I would imagine no for most of them.
But interestingly, a lot of them do, at least. So you can do this thing that I think was just a creative project started by this guy on Tumblr, but it's actually an interesting way to analyze the color of a movie. But it's called a movie barcode, and basically what you do is you take every frame and you take like an average color, basically, and then you kind of line up all the colors for all the frames in a line, and then you can see like the average color of each frame of the movie as it progresses. And some of them turn out really cool, and you can pretty easily see the like 5 to 7 colors that they kind of went for that movie.
Yeah.
But I wrote a script to do that, and I ran a couple Doctor Who episodes through it. I think this on my Twitter somewhere. And some of them like very definitely have like a specific color scheme. In the Forest of the Night, unsurprisingly, was very green, but I think I also did Mummy on the Orient Express, and that one was like very orange and blue.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, it's not surprising to me that TV shows would do this, because obviously movies do it too, but when you think about Doctor Who, like every single episode is kind of its own thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a little surprising to me that
maybe I'll run Spyfall through it and see what happens. Why not?
I mean, if you have the time and desire.
I mean, the time will just be like I'll put it on to run in the background and fall asleep, and it'll take 12 hours to run because I have to run it on my laptop. But I can sleep while it does it.
Yeah, well, we'll see. If there's anything interesting that comes from it, I'll try and share it on the Twitter or whatever.
Yeah. So anyway, where are we in my notes? Hang on.
Well, they get into Tesla's little lab that he has set up.
Oh yeah, and the doctor's really underwhelmed. She's like, I expected more.
Yeah, it's pretty dead and empty. Like, and Yaz even mentions this later. She says something along the lines of like, "Thought you would have more stuff in here," and Tesla goes like, "All up here."
Yeah, this is an actual thing, actually. When Tesla died, like a lot of his inventions died with him because he never wrote them down.
Like how, I know I've mentioned this before, but like when Kafka died, he like asked his like one friend to like burn everything he ever wrote. And like the only reason we have Kafka's writing is because he didn't do that. He instead like monetized Kafka's writing.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you live in a society that values money over artistic integrity.
Well, I know you're saying that to like say that that's a bad thing, but is it?
Up to you. It's up to you to decide. It's like, do the ends justify the means? Yeah, we got all these great works of art from Kafka, but does that justify that his friend went against his wishes, monetized all his work, probably made thousands of, if not tens of thousands of dollars off of it that he would never have made otherwise?
Marks, so like $1.50.
Well, that's a discussion for another time.
Anyways, right before they get into the lab, there's a zoom in on like this sketchy guy sitting at like a little table that was set up in the background. Mm-hmm. And I guess this was like one of the Sith Lords that proceeds to like wreak havoc in a few minutes. But at the time I was like, what is this? Like, why is it zooming in on this one guy?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Harold Green. No relation.
Anyway, the Tesla steps out of the lab for a moment. I forget why, but the doctor immediately starts like fangirling about Tesla because I think like Graham or Ryan or someone says like, "So who was Tesla again?"
Yeah, Ryan. Graham's the only one of the three who recognizes who Tesla is, but doesn't know anything he's invented or done.
Oh yeah, Graham goes like, "Oh yeah, Tesla. He made that thing."
Yeah, tell him, Doc.
So the doctor starts explaining a little bit about Tesla's, inventions and how he was not very successful in
anything.
In anything. Well, how
mostly
he was
in business.
Yeah, well, like how he created all these brilliant concepts or whatever, but was not successful in getting them realized. So kind of like not a modern day, because this is all taking place 100 plus years ago, but like a more modern Da Vinci type thing, where he just doesn't have either the tech or the money to get anything done.
At least Da Vinci wrote his ideas down.
Yeah.
Well, then Dorothy comes in with a letter from J.P. Morgan, who is funding Wardenclyffe Tower. And I should mention here that the number 50,000 comes up like twice in this episode, which is kind of weird. $50,000 specifically, because Tesla says he only needs $50,000 to finish Wardenclyffe Tower, and later in this episode, Edison says that he offered anyone $50,000 to fix his generator.
Yeah, this is a side note. Freud actually, weirdly just read this like less than a week ago, but like Freud actually came up, when he was discussing the uncanny, like came up with a long German word, as you might expect, for like numbers that reoccur throughout like fiction, and I don't know. It's weird. And then weird that this would happen here. Uncanny, you might say.
So, J.P. Morgan's pulling out of funding the tower. It's weirdly phallus-shaped, actually, looking back on it. Anyway, J.P. Morgan's pulling out of the tower project, and Tesla's like, I guess I can't finish it now because I don't have the money.
Except like he's way more sad and distraught than like, oh well,
Well, this is his life's work.
But meanwhile, Edison is doing some great things. By great things, I mean he's like giving a speech in the street about how much Tesla sucks.
Yeah, this was like it was really interesting how this was shot, because this is one of the first times I've noticed in Doctor Who that when they show someone, they shoot him from like his foot level. So this shot of Edison is like looking up at him, which I guess is to emphasize the fact that he's got all the power in this situation, basically, because he's the one with all the money and the giant factory with his name on the side. Even our power company here is named after Edison.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this also was kind of something that interested me in this episode, because like we're getting early New York, like New York before cars took off or became more accessible. Which is just, I don't know, it's always weird to think about like how a lot of cities were not built for roads and yet somehow now accommodate like thousands, if not millions of cars.
Well, accommodate. Accommodate.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks so small. Like this is New York City, but it looks like a small town almost. Because it's just like dirt roads and...
Yeah, the Doctor mentions that Times Square and the Empire State Building aren't built yet. We know the Empire State Building's not built yet, because don't we see it being built in like Daleks in Manhattan?
I don't know.
Throw back to that episode. An evolution of the Daleks. I think that's what the second episode was called. Anyway,
they sort of confront Edison, and they ask him why he ruined Tesla's life. And he sort of gives a little backstory about how when Tesla came to America, he joined Edison's little factory or lab or whatever, and he worked for a year on fixing like a generator or some machine or something. But Edison went back on his word about paying whoever could fix it like a large
$50,000.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Tesla was upset about this, so he went to go dig ditches instead.
Yeah.
Again, downplaying the fact that Edison sued the pants off Tesla.
So Tesla was just a gullible idiot and blamed Edison for it.
Rightfully so, I think.
Well,
for going back on his word.
I don't know about that. You know,
I think this is the one case where Tesla's in the right. Yeah.
Look, if you're gonna believe someone, all about something they say, then all that's on you.
I mean, if someone's telling you they were a dick, you should probably believe them. Edison's telling you he went back on his word, you should probably believe him, because typically people won't admit that they've done something shitty like that. So if he's admitting it, he's...
So, okay, where was Tesla, like, originally from? Like...
Oh, it was,
like Poland or something? I'm probably totally wrong about that.
No, I think it was one of the like, future Soviet bloc countries. Poland
wasn't part of the...
Yeah,
Soviet
no, Poland
Union.
wasn't, but I think it was one of the future Soviet bloc, but I'm just going to look it up, actually. So, yeah, Serbia.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, modern-day Croatia.
Yeah, because I think at some point in the episode, I don't know if we have already, like, passed that point, he says something along the lines of, like, you know, came to America and thought everything would be different, but it's not. It's actually, like, worse or something.
Yeah, surprising.
So Yaz is actually having a little heart-to-heart with Tesla in his lab, and you know, I've got to say, Series 12, I think, because a lot of people after Series 11 aired and into Series 12, I recall saying like, you know, the companions aren't doing anything, the themes and messages of the episode are like way too on point, and those are two things that I'm really starting to see here with like Orphan 55 and this one. Is like the companions don't really do too much in this, except Yaz fulfilling her designated role of like talking to the character of the week,
emotional support companion. Yeah, I know I mentioned this before we started recording that I don't think that this one is really as on the nose as Orphan 55 was.
No, it's not.
I actually don't think this one is really on the nose at all, except right at the end where the doctor's like, Tesla died penniless, and Yaz is like, that's not right. He invented all this great stuff. It's like, well, that's business, baby. So, that's okay. Westinghouse got filthy rich off of all Tesla's stuff.
And Elon Musk is using...
appropriating Tesla's name.
They actually mentioned that in the episode. I think Ryan goes like, Tesla, like the car, right?
And Graham's like, yeah, the car was named after him. So...
I originally, like, when I first heard of Teslas, like, years ago, I actually thought that, like, it was something to do with Nikola Tesla, like, how he somehow, like, started what would go on to, like, be the Tesla, like, car...
Nope.
You know, knit brand.
Just elongated muskrat.
Just Elon Musk starting a new, like, multi-million-dollar, like, business.
And succeeding again.
Yeah.
Elon. So, turns out Edison's not in on this plot to kill Tesla.
Yeah,
this time.
Well, okay, so we actually glossed over the whole reason they sought out Edison in the first place is that, like, one of Edison's stealth photographers like snapped a photo of Tesla's lab.
Tesla's empty lab. So while the doctor and co go, so the doctor, Graham, and Ryan are going to find Edison. Tesla and Yaz and Dorothy stay behind, and Tesla hooks up the little orb to ancient early 20th century electrical components. Because apparently it's generating power. And you know in Doctor Who, if there's something that generates a limitless amount of power, some crazed scientist is going to try harness it and cause the end of the world. Throwback to Inferno.
Throwback to, not Fury from the Deep, whatever the other from the Deep thing was.
Warriors.
Or you know, I don't know, the Underwater Menace, whatever one had Zaroff in it.
You know, looking back on it, was Inferno the first time that Doctor Who, like, canonized the fact that there were alternate timelines like running parallel to this one, allowing basically anything to be canon because you'd be like, alternate timeline.
Well, maybe it was the Dalek invasion of Earth when they dropped the fact that the Daleks need static electricity to move.
Maybe.
Maybe it was
But
that.
Inferno, we explicitly see another universe. And also, I was hearing all these people who are like, Timeless Children makes everything canon, and I'm like, Spiral Scratch already did that.
30 years ago, where have you guys been?
Probably not reading Spiral Scratch, making the correct choice in life. Sometimes I forget Spiral Scratch exists, and those are the best moments of my life.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of people now in the episode are not having the best moments of their lives because two bad things happen here.
Well, they might be because they're dead now, so we can't ask them.
And maybe their lives sucked, like working as slaves in
Wage
Edison's
slaves.
workshop. The freeing
Release of
release
death.
of death, yeah. Okay, so the robed guy who we saw earlier in the episode, who had a name,
Harold Green,
Harold
no
Green.
relation.
just arrives at the lab and kills everyone.
With electricity from his hands. And Edison's like, wow, all of my people are dead. The doctor's like, yeah, we'll be next if we don't stop him. So they kind of form this ring of fire around him. And they're like, what do you want? And he's like, we're here for the engineer. And they leave. So the doctor, they find the real Harold Green's body, and the doctor calls Yaz and is like, hey, don't let anyone in because they can look like anyone. But it's too late. Dorothy already let two of them in.
And she walks in on Tesla and Yaz, and she's like, this was a mistake. Should not have done this, but we're here now.
And Tesla's like, oh, you're here for the orb, aren't you? You could just take it. And they're like, no, we're here for you. And they just take him and vanish. And they're like, no! Keep in mind, we've still got 25 minutes in the episode from this point onward.
Yeah, why is that?
That surprised me because I really thought this was going to be like, I looked at the time, I really thought this was going to be like, 10 minutes to the end. Like the big thing was we got to save Tesla. Turns out, no, Tesla gets taken halfway through the episode, and this is only like a side point to the plan that the Skithra have.
Yeah, kind of ish. So they wind up actually in the like limbo hell zone from Insidious.
Or It Takes You Away.
It's true too. Or Spyfall.
A lot of weird limbo hell zones. I saw someone refer to the one from Spyfall as the carpet fiber dimension.
If you like zoom in really far on a microscopic level on like human skin, it kind of looks like that. Yeah, it looks really weird. Like there's some disturbing like stuff going on like on the surface of the human body. But that's another story.
Like all the bacteria.
Yeah.
You think you're safe? Run.
So there's a ton of scorpions on the ceiling, and that's all we're left with as far as information goes about this zone.
Yeah,
here.
when I saw the queen, I thought this was going to be the Rachnas for a second. I was like, whoa, Chibnall deep cut.
That would be a throwback.
But it's not, so...
No.
Back to that other alternate timeline in Doomsday when the Doctor drowns because Donna Noble turns right instead of left. Or left instead of right, I don't remember. Anyway, the Doctor gets her TARDIS and then tracks the Skithra spaceship and teleports up there using the little orb thing. I think Yaz actually goes with Tesla because she like grabs his arm right before he teleports up. And the Skithra basically tell Tesla that he has to fix their spaceship. And that's it. He has to fix their spaceship.
Well, or else they'll destroy the Earth. That's the stinger of all of this.
Except they don't really like have a way to do that because he needs to fix their weapons too. So it's kind of like Skithra don't really have any bargaining power in this situation.
Well, they're using like scariness of their like powers of destruction that they themselves can leverage to their advantage here, because they can just like sting them to death.
I guess, but Tesla's like, yeah, I'm not helping you, sorry.
Well, okay, so the actual reason that they need Tesla to do all this is that they didn't invent any of their stuff themselves. They just stole it, and they don't really know how to fix it.
Classic.
So they decided to get Tesla, this guy who has no experience with like this super advanced alien technology, to help them.
Considering they're stuck in early 20th century Earth, like, this is about the best they can do.
Yeah, probably. But actually, the whole thing around Nikola Tesla is like, you gotta wonder how many people out there who are like as brilliant or even more so than him, who are even less known.
Yeah.
You know, like there could be people like in history who like are thousands of times more brilliant than like the most brilliant people we know about, but we're just never known.
Yeah, there's like, shoot, what's it? I don't remember her name. But she wrote like most of the code for the Apollo missions and just no one remembers her name because... like, including me right now, embarrassingly, but put it in the show notes.
Yeah. Or like you gotta wonder like how many people like what if there's someone who like could have been the best like snowboarder? That's just a dumb example. Like no, but like okay, like it could be anything. It could literally be anything. And this is just the first thing that came to mind. But like what if there's someone who like could have been the greatest snowboarder ever, but never picked up a snowboard or like lived in like Hawaii or something and just never knew.
So what you're saying is we should all try literally everything until we figure it out.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, what if?
What if you're the world's greatest surfboarder?
Surfboarder? What is that? It's like paddle. What if I'm the world's greatest paddleboarder? What if?
Guess we'll never know.
Nah, we won't.
No, but yeah, I know what you're saying, because the whole point, Tesla has this whole thing when they rescue Tesla now and they go back down to the lab, Tesla has this whole thing about, like, you know, I basically never get recognized for my achievements. And I don't remember who else was talking about this, but they mentioned, like, yeah, Tesla literally gets no recognition for this. And I guess the point is, like, there could be hundreds, if not thousands, of people around the Earth who are the same as Tesla. We just don't remember their names because they got screwed over even harder by life.
Yeah, or maybe it's not even so much don't remember, but maybe it's like we never knew in the first place. Like they never made themselves public in the first place. And Tesla's actually weird because nowadays he's like highly remembered for not being like very remembered, weirdly.
Yeah. It's the interesting number paradox, which basically just says that you can come up with a reason why each number is interesting, but then the very first number that you can't do that for that's uninteresting is therefore interesting because it is the first uninteresting number. So the question is, can there ever be an uninteresting number? Anyway, the Skithra revealed that the reason why they actually wanted Tesla is because he detected them above Mars and sent a reply. And the doctor's like, you did what? And Tesla's like, I didn't know it worked. You know, to his credit, he didn't know it worked because he didn't get a reply to his reply.
So the doctor decides to intimidate the Skithra.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't seem like the best plan of action.
Well, she's always done this.
Yeah, and
classic doctor.
Yeah, it usually works actually in the end, but
sometimes it's all she needs to do. Throw back to when the 10th Doctor regenerated into the 10th Doctor, and he just goes up on the ship and he's like, "You should run," and then he just like kills one of them, and they're like, "Yep, we're gonna run now." With the Christmas orange that he throws against the button. It activates the trapdoor that they had on the outside of their spaceship for some reason. Looking back on it, that actually doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, so what does make a lot of sense here in this episode is that it turns out Edison was good for something after all. And that's defaming Tesla.
Yeah, so they basically go to Wardenclyffe because the Doctor comes up with this plan, which is like we could use Wardenclyffe to zap the spaceship by, instead of using it to harness the power of the Earth, we use it to create the power of the Earth and create a lightning bolt. And Tesla's like, yeah, we could do that, so let's do that. And Edison and Yaz, their kind of job is to get people off the streets because they don't want them to get killed by the Skithra who are coming down to get Tesla. And so Edison, like, Yaz is trying to get them to go inside, and they're like ignoring her. And Edison just kind of walks up, buys a newspaper, and yells out, "Tesla's experimenting with his tower again! Everybody get inside in case you're gonna die!" And they're like, "Ah!" And Yaz is just kind of like, "Wow, wow." got to use the skills, that you're good at.
Yeah, like defaming your competitors and dragging their good names through the mud.
Yeah, there's a line earlier where like Graham points out that Edison is like really self-centered because he sticks his name on everything in his factory. There's like a big sign inside the factory that says Edison brings light.
Yeah, I guess there's one thing to, have your name or logo or whatever on the outside, but like inside, people are already working for you. You're reminding them of what a godlike being you are.
So they start charging up the tower. They like connect it to the TARDIS, so the TARDIS is going to charge the tower, which is going to shoot the spaceship. And the Doctor's like, well, the Skithra are a hive species, so if we kill the Queen... I don't know why her first instinct is to kill the Queen, but anyway, if we kill the Queen, that'll stop them.
Yeah, it's like what happens to bees when their queen dies or the hive is destroyed. They just get really angry and swarm.
Except the Skithra, if the Queen dies, they're just well, guess we don't have any purpose in life. Guess I'll die.
But it turns out that this was all for naught, because the Skithra are a little smarter than they make themselves out to be. Because it turns out they evacuated their ship and are just there.
To attack Tesla, mostly. And the Queen comes down. The Doctor's can't blow up the ship now because the Queen's not on the ship anymore. And the Queen comes in and is like, haha, you thought we were dumb because we were scavengers, Doctor, but actually, turns out we were smarter than you. And she's like, we'll see about that in 10 seconds when you pick up this device I don't want you to pick up. The Queen's like, what do you want? What was your plan for this? And the Doctor's like, just wanted you to pick it up.
So she gets teleported back to the ship and blasted.
Yeah, because we kind of skimmed over this a little. We skimmed over this a lot, actually. But while they're charging the tower, the TARDIS shields are keeping them safe. But then the Doctor's like, when we get ready to launch the lightning bolt, there's not enough power in the TARDIS to keep the shields up and zap the spaceship. So the shields are going to come down. And then it's going to take about 30 seconds before the bolt is charged. So when the shields come down, that's when all the Skithra and the Queen come in to attack them. And then that's why they had to teleport her back up so that they blow up the ship, which they do. And they kill, all the Skithra. So if we were still keeping the death count, the 13th Doctor is, making a hard case for her to be included on the genocide count.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we're not keeping the death count because there's definitely a countable but large amount of deaths in Edison's lab earlier in the episode that would have been really annoying to count. But yeah, you're right. So that's how they solve all of this. Edison and Tesla kind of make up, but not really.
Edison's just like, you should come work for me again, Tesla. And Tesla's like, ha, no. And Edison's like, if you keep working on this, you'll be penniless. And Tesla's like, maybe, which he was. He died broke. I like how this episode also glosses over the fact that Tesla may have been in love with, a bird.
What?
I seem to remember reading this, that Tesla had a pet bird that he wrote about and was like, I love her like I would love any woman. She's, the best thing in my life.
Well, I've read, I don't know how true it is, but I've read that Tesla was actually a pretty big misogynist.
Yeah, I've read that too.
Yeah.
He was also very secluded, which is why I was surprised at the inclusion of Dorothy Skerritt in this, because I didn't think Tesla had any friends.
Yeah, they don't really touch on a lot of the negatives that I've heard about with Tesla in this, which I guess makes sense for the story at hand.
Yeah. I mean, the inclusion of Dorothy is clearly to draw a parallel between Tesla and the Doctor, because Dorothy's talking about how great it is meeting Tesla and seeing the impossible and all that. Yeah,
and they even compare the Doctor and Tesla directly when they sort of have this mini conversation near the beginning of the episode, and they both agree that inventing stuff is great or whatever.
Inventing stuff is great.
So Tesla dies a failure, but at least they name an asteroid after him. No, I'm just kidding.
If this episode had ended with the Doctor being and this is the asteroid named for Nikola Tesla, I'd be like, bravo, Chibnall.
God.
Self-aware genius.
That asteroid thing actually was, real. I ended up looking that up after Rosa.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember if we had actually mentioned that on the episode.
I feel like we did.
Yeah, I think so. But I remember when I watched the episode, I was like, is this real or not?
Is this real?
And it was. But no asteroid named after Tesla, as far as I know. Are you looking it up right now?
Yes.
I doubt there is one.
Wow, I typed asteroid named after, and the third result is... Well, I typed asteroid named, and then the third result is asteroid named after Rosa Parks.
Yeah. Doctor Who really influencing the Google search results there.
Ah, here we go. 2244 Tesla is a carbonaceous asteroid from the central region of the asteroid belt, approximately 25 kilometers in diameter.
Dang.
It was discovered on the 22nd of October 1952 by Serbian astronomer Milorad Protic, I don't know, at the Belgrade Observatory, then Federal People's Republic of Yugoslavia.
Dang, they should have just ended this with that. Like the doctor saying, yeah, Tesla died like a failure in his own time, but wait till you guys see this.
Again, I would have been like, bravo, Chibnall, you self-aware genius.
Or totally unaware genius.
No, I think Chibnall's pretty self-aware.
Meh.
I think Chibnall recognizes... I mean, I guess this is something to talk about, but I do think Chibnall recognized or tried to recognize what people allegedly disliked about Series 11. I know we didn't dislike it, but a lot of people were like, it's too slow. It doesn't have an overarching plot.
And just went the entire opposite direction with all of that.
Yeah, I'll have to watch Fugitive Jadoon and Timeless Children, but I almost get the sense that Chibnall's like, oh, you wanted big and you wanted an overarching plot? Well, take this, you jerks.
The BBC
Which
actually,
I think is hilarious. But
yeah, the BBC actually had to issue an apology.
It wasn't really an apology. I don't know if you've read it, but the BBC statement basically says we support our writers doing whatever the hell they want to do. That's literally it's like 4 paragraphs long, but that's the gist of it. It's basically the BBC just going, yeah, Chris can do whatever he wants and we support him in that. So.
Huh. You gotta wonder if they really mean that, whatever he wants. Whatever he wants.
I mean, he basically retconned he basically hit and run the entire continuity of Doctor Who, so I've heard.
Yeah, but what if he wants, perhaps in Series 13 to portray hardcore drugs, sex, and violence on Doctor
Who. All right, okay. I guess obviously there are limits.
Series 13 opens with the Doctor just shooting. Okay, no.
Shooting up heroin? Was that what you were gonna say? Just a 20-minute real-time orgy in the TARDIS.
42, but it's more explicit stuff.
It's 42, but it's about the Doctor's search for heroin on the streets of New York.
Jesus.
Yikes.
Well, if there's one good thing the Timeless Children has done is that it's opened up the door for The Rock to play the Doctor.
We don't even know if that's true. We haven't even seen it.
You know what? I don't care. Anyway, to actually get back to the topic at hand, I thought this episode was a little weaker, mainly because I thought it actually started pretty strong. Nikola Tesla and Edison and their feud is not actually something I'm all that interested in, but I think this episode, at the beginning at least, did a good job of getting me interested in that and portraying that. Mm-hmm. But I think it kind of falls apart with the Skithra. They're just kind of lame.
I think this was actually stronger than Orphan 55 in my opinion. I think I enjoyed this one more. I liked the idea of the Skithra being alien scavengers. When they land on the ship, the Doctor mentions this is a Venusian ship, but you're not Venusians. And the Silurian blaster and basically everything. I think they should have leaned into this more though, with the whole everything is mismatched, cobbled together random pieces of equipment from different races. I think it could have been really cool if they had leaned into that a lot more.
Yeah, maybe have less of your CG budget go to like a scorpion chase on the streets of early 1900s New York, and more to like maybe a few good shots of like a cobbled together mishmash spaceship or something.
Yeah.
We see, yeah.
Just making it more obvious that it is a cobbled together mishmash than just having it be explained by the Doctor in dialogue, basically.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if this was just me, but like when the Skithra Queen showed up and the lighting was like not good enough to like fully see what she was, I was like, whoa, like they're actually going for like blackface in Doctor Who.
I mean, Patrick Troughton did want to play the Doctor in blackface.
Yeah, he did.
Can't forget that black stain on the history of Doctor Who.
Well, I can and did forget it. I mean, I knew that because we've discussed it like multiple times in the past, but like I did forget that he said that.
Well, I'm here to remind you. Also liked how I think this episode, I think there is kind of an overarching theme this season of like transhumanism and yeah, transhumanism actually is pretty much the word I was looking for.
Transhumanism or posthumanism? Is
both.
Yeah.
Both.
I actually didn't know the difference until like a couple months ago, which is that transhumanism is like taking what humans are now and making them go beyond.
Yeah.
Posthumanism is just like whatever comes after human.
I think it's both, honestly. You know, Orphan 55, well, let me go back. Spyfall, we've got the, I think there's a lot of transhumanist stuff there with the rewriting DNA so that people are storage devices and, what's his name, the main villain, whose name I didn't even remember when we watched the episode.
Starts with a B, something like that.
Being only like 93% human because part of him has been almost upgraded. And then in Orphan 55, we have kind of the weird squirrel hybrids, and then the dregs who are like post-humanist, but also the fact that like the planet is completely annihilated and there's nothing left on Earth basically, which again is like that's potentially another one of those alternate timeline things, because we've seen future Earth like multiple times in the series now, and every time its future is different, and the Doctor even says this in the episode, like this is only one possible future.
Yeah.
Like when we saw the Earth in series 1, you know, when it was getting blown up by the sun, like it was still a thriving planet. And when we see it multiple times in that era, it's like a thriving planet in the future. Or roughly thriving. And then in this episode, I think we get, you know, with the whole cobbled together stuff, but also like when the Queen comes down, she like asks the Doctor, and this was my only quote for this episode, so I guess I'm saying it now instead of in the quote section we forgot to do last week. She says, have you ever seen let me back up a sec. The Queen tells the Doctor that because she won't let her have Tesla, that now they'll burn the entire planet instead of just taking Tesla. And she asks the Doctor, have you ever seen a dead planet? And the Doctor says, I've seen more than you could possibly imagine. Tying in not only to Orphan 55 last week, but also to Gallifrey and Spyfall, when the Doctor goes to Gallifrey and it's completely bombed and burned out again. And
all those rock quarry planets that they visited in the classic show.
Also Gallifrey, like, after the Time War. There's just, like, multiple dead planets. So I think it's all tying together pretty nicely, actually. There's, like, this kind of overarching theme of what happens next to humanity.
Yeah. You know, humans are going beyond, and, you know, as far as I know, in Fugitive of the Jadoon and The Timeless Children, we're going to see how Time Lords are going beyond what was established in the past.
Well, also, I was going to say, I wasn't going to tie this too much to the future yet, because we don't know what's coming necessarily, but also, like, the Cybermen, too, is like a kind of Tron/post-humanist thing, because it, especially in a lot of their origins, is about humans who upgraded themselves to survive, basically to survive. The Mondazian Cybermen in the 10th Planet were like they upgraded themselves to survive on Mondaz. In spare parts of the audio, they were upgrading themselves to like get to the surface of the planet. In World Enough in Time, it was to survive the spaceship escaping the black hole. So again, that's another tie-in this season. I'm curious to see if the other episodes, like Praxius and The Haunting of Villa Diodati, tie into this as well, which I think they will. I feel like it's kind of hard not to do that when you've got like Mary Shelley, the writer of Frankenstein, in the episode.
Well, maybe they could, instead of Frankenstein it's a little too,
On the
heavily
nose?
loved. No, it's a little
Oh.
too heavily loved. There were when Frankenstein was actually it was actually written, I think, as like part of a contest of like they were all stuck in this house and like, all right, who can write the best horror story? And Byron wrote like one that has survived till now, but it's actually like it's not that good.
Byron.
So maybe they'll focus on that instead of Mary Shelley.
Maybe, but I feel like they always go for the... This is the one thing about this season compared to like last season, is that they kind of go for like the pop history and not like the real deep cuts. Last season, like the partition of India was like... It's an important thing if you're from that, you're from the Indian subcontinent, basically. But how many people outside of that really know about the partition of India? I know I didn't know a lot about it, but ask someone if they know about Edison, and you'll be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't know about Edison or like Mary Shelley, right? And also, this episode kind of like really plays into the... I think you mentioned this, but I'm gonna word it slightly differently. The like kind of modern, almost retroactive hero worship of Tesla, where he suddenly in the past, I don't know, 10 years, suddenly gained a lot of prominence.
Because of the car.
Because the car,
maybe.
But also just like people being like, well, we should remember all the people that history forgot, unless they're a woman, apparently.
No, I don't think that that's true. Yeah, to a large extent, maybe it is, but like not totally.
Not totally. I'm exaggerating for comedic effect, but I think it is mostly true.
Yeah. Well, also glossing over how like a lot of people who did great things in whatever area were also just terrible people.
Most of them were.
Well, I don't know if I don't even know if most, but like a lot, were.
A non-trivial amount. We'll say that. A non-trivial amount of them were. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's part of the hero worship aspect of it. Like, you never want to accept that your heroes are bad people. It's like how every time I tell someone that Dr. Seuss cheated on his wife while she had cancer, and then she wrote a letter to him when she died basically saying, I understand I wasn't enough because I was dying, so it's okay that you cheated on me. People like refuse to believe that Dr. Seuss could be such a shitty person like that, but he was. Like, that's a thing that happened.
Yeah. Just goes to show you that the artist is not their art.
Yeah, the only person I've never heard anything bad about, the two people are Bob Ross and Fred Rogers. And Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, him too. The only person I've never heard anything bad about is Fred, a.k.a. Lucas Crookshank, or whatever his name is. He seems like a pretty alright guy.
Yeah, there's some alright people. There's some really not. I mean, that's also like, Winston Churchill was a pretty bad guy, actually. But in Doctor Who, they completely glossed over all the bad parts of his character, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this season so far is definitely a lot more bombastic than Series 11 was. This almost feels like the Series 2 to Series 11's Series 1 in a way. And I don't know if that's a good thing.
I do like that there has been this overarching theme of like post/transhumanism, the what comes next for humanity, I guess. What comes next, whether by their own hand or not. That's been running through the episodes so far.
Yeah, Doctor Who's always dealt with that. They're just now, I think, drawing a lot more attention to it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more attention to it in this season specifically because I think it's part of where Chibnall wanted to go with the whole timeless children arc and who is the timeless child and how they actually play into the whole thing. Because I've had actually quite a lot spoiled about that specifically. I know who the timeless child is.
Yeah, I know almost everything.
But we'll leave it unspoiled for the fans who are listening to this podcast for some reason. Love all 100 of you. Anyway, we have an email to respond to this week, unless you have anything else to talk about for this episode.
No, I didn't even know we had an email.
We've actually got from a new fan emailing us who will not see this email for months, probably, which that'll make sense in a second. So the subject line is, hey, Hey, Dylan and Keon. Did I spell that right? Yes, you did, actually. While you both have been watching Doctor Who from the beginning, I've been listening to Trust Your Doctor from the beginning.
Oh, boy. No. Oh, God.
I wanted to watch through Doctor Who again, but instead opted for just listening to reviews of the episodes. I started in October, and now I'm listening to a Greatest Show in the Galaxy review, this moment actually. Anyway, I really enjoy your podcast, and I have a question that you may have already answered, but I'm not there yet. I'm still listening to 2017 Trust Your Doctor. What are you planning on doing when you catch up with the show soon? I guess I'll know when I get there, and knowing is half the battle. Also, I hope Keon likes the reboot, even the sappy moments. Good luck with the rest of the season. Sincerely, Grawler. Virus-free of Ask.com.
Torchwood. To answer your question.
Oh, I guess Keon's just deciding. A week ago it was...
Well, okay.
A week ago it was still up in the air.
Well, I just said that to be funny, but it's probably going to be Torchwood. Because we haven't really discussed any other alternative course of action.
I think it's going to be Torchwood for a couple of reasons. My reasoning on why we should do Torchwood, and I'm going to say this now and people can weigh in if they want, is that one, surprise Jack Harkness cameo next week in Fugitive of the Jadoon, so it seems relevant. And two, Chris Chibnall was heavily involved and I think actually showrunner for the first 2 seasons of Torchwood, so there's not really going to be a more opportune moment than now to do it, except if we were actually still deep in the Russell T era, because that's when the show came out. So
yeah, or unless they announce a new season of Torchwood.
Yeah, that too. Which
that's been going around the the rumor mill recently.
But probably won't come to pass.
Nah, probably not.
But yeah, that's we will probably do that. But there are other options we're considering. Other options are available.
Yeah, stopping the podcast entirely and burning all of our Doctor Who merchandise.
Just burn it off the internet.
I actually don't have any Doctor Who merch to burn.
Just accidentally delete our Libsyn account and wipe
quote-unquote accidentally
300 plus episodes of Trust Your Doctor wiped from the internet for good.
3,500 hours of content plus at least double that amount of work put into editing and doing the show notes of the episodes down the drain.
You know what? When we stop the podcast for good, I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to wipe everything.
You're going to be like Kafka.
And anybody who saved the episodes themselves personally, well, they'll be the only people who will have them.
They'll be the bastard best friend who saved all his work.
No, let's be real. No one's saving these episodes anywhere.
But all our podcasts are actually uploaded to sites that we haven't allowed to upload them, as is every podcast.
I know. So if I shut down the Libsyn account, the podcast will just still exist in some form. I'll have to wipe the YouTube account while I'm at it.
Yeah, now we're just totally off on a tangent, but I always think, for a free podcast like us, that's not a big deal. I really don't care that we're uploaded on various other random sites, but for a paid people who are making money off of their podcast, sucks that you can just Google the name of the podcast and listen for free.
Yeah. That's fine though for us. We're not making any money off this.
Yeah, and if it doesn't affect you directly, who the hell cares? Right?
Well, if you'd like to weigh in on this conversation, you can reach us at thedoctor.vegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Doctor Who?
Your thoughts on monetizing podcasts.
There we go. Your thoughts on monetizing podcasts. You can find us on YouTube with Decorative Vegetable and find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next week, we haven't actually mentioned this, but next week we're actually going to be joined by RG once again to watch Fugitive of the Jadoon.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Mm-hmm. But until then, the end.